So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, a refined Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. As per YershiYAhu the prophet, find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. As we read then YershiYAhu the prophet, let's make an understanding very clear as far as Daniel and also YershiYAhu, because in YershiYAhu the prophet we find then the returning of the cities of the Messiah. Very knowingly, we know that these cities are then on the land of Cush, and the first holy city of this period, we know precisely the region of the world where it's going to be at. As far as when the Creator himself is going to make a choice in what site should be at, then we should wait. So then, as far as what's going on in the world, then the Chinese system is in the northwest side of China, has started a few hours ago. The system is absolutely very big, is earning thousands upon thousands, and then much more is coming up as far as the new system of China. But then as the world has come to a stalemate as far as we can understand from the old system, we find then the economy of Africa improving a bit, but then the West is stagnated. You find United States is stagnated, you find Brazil is stagnated, the economy is not going forward, and there is a kind of a doldrum going on as far as the economy is concerned. But where do we read these in the holy instructions then to give us some understanding what's going on during this period of time? Well, I said before many times, many months ago, in fact a few years ago, the Chinese system is coming, the Chinese system is coming, and the Chinese system is coming, and truly did. Not only this, but the northwest side of China is also going forward with the new system, and China has obviously a great growth in their economy, and stocks are going up. So China is in a very apex of the entire situation, whereas then the rest of the world is going through some doldrums of economical situations, and then you find the West unfortunately stagnated. Where do we find then the certainty of this new system? Very simply, we understand what it was explained before. Dragon Mart is the largest market in the world. China has it, in Dubai, in Arabia has it, and shortly in Cancun must also come up this new market. And then because of these, we find nations stagnated such as United States, and then also Brazil and most of South America, where then we won't have much improvement for the next at least 36 months. As I said before, and many times, it is a period of time where then you have a couple of situations. First, we have then United States having its time to link up the new system, so then when the new Republican government comes in shortly couple of years, then the system can be obviously linked up. However, the system of China won't wait for the nations to get ready for it. When the system comes, people are going to download in their computers and they're going to start doing trade. As far as we can understand, nations is stagnated. They are trying once again to come up with ideas of their own, and it is not working. Let's be frank and honest. When we read the holy instructions as far as Daniel the 12th chapter, you find in the increasing of knowledge spoken of by Daniel the prophet. It was obviously directly related with trade. Thus then, this situation resumes on computers as the new system comes. And let's say for instance the situation with Brazil. The interest rates have gone up and the economy is not growing, is absolutely stagnated. The national debt is absolutely high, and the nation can come out of this crazy situation. So then, let's evaluate from the viewpoint of the Creator himself, that he has then chosen China as then the new leader of the Eastern economical era. Where do we find these in the Holy Instructions? Precisely then in Golah, or Revelation. Not only Revelation gives us then the Dragonic period, but then we find on Daniel the 11th chapter, where then the Soviet Union must be joined up with Egypt. As I said before, it was then a couple of months ago mentioned very precisely the Soviet Union must link up with Egypt, and then providing arms and whatsoever is then required to get then Egypt self back in its position. Obviously then the sons of Ishmael, the Ishmaelites, must then gather in Egypt. When this situation does not take place, the world is going to be in a stalemate as far as we can understand the West. China is going to be always be growing and is going to be expanding itself, whereas the West and the nations involved with the old system, they're going to be stagnated. They are not going anywhere. They're going to be wallowing around until the Soviet Union makes a deal with Egypt, providing Egypt with what is then required, and then the sons of Ishmael, those that are from the Isle, they gather in Egypt, and then the brothers and then the sons of Ishmael, they come up with a system of their own. They understand very precisely that they do control the world already because of the oil. Oil is very important for trade, and then the freighters, they do understand what this means. As oil goes up, then trade goes down. But then the sons of Ishmael are very smart. If they lower the price of oil, this produces more trade. That's precisely then the plan. As long as the Soviet Union does not make a deal with Egypt, besides then September, a couple of months ago or so, they had a deal with arms, but Egypt must receive a whole lot more. And then the sons of Ishmael must make their headquarters in Egypt, because Hagar was then obviously the person that was given by Egypt when the time then Abraham was involved with a war. So then this servant was given to Abraham, and then from their relationship came the first son Ishmael. That's where he's from. He's from Egypt. At least his mother was. And then he was treated very nicely, and he became a king. Thus then, we understand from the Holy Instructions, where we can read these very importantly, because in the 11th chapter of Daniel in verse 8, then explains, and also their gods and their molten images, when its vases and what they had whatsoever, silver and gold, went into exile for a time. In Egypt, and in years to come, wilt come from the kingdom of the north. Now let's try to understand the situation. When a person is in love with the Holy Instructions, when a person likes to read the Holy Instructions, when a person delights in reading, then the Creator himself always honors it when there is a true desire of knowing more of Him. From a military standpoint, the instructions in Daniel the 11th chapter, they are very clear. As long as Egypt and the Soviet Union, they don't join, and then the sons of Ishmael, they do not make a headquarters in Egypt, the rest of the West won't go anywhere. The economy is going down. It's not going to improve. And China is going to link up the rest of the world, the Pacific mostly. And as China then receives the best of every deal, the other nations won't receive any of it. because the whole economy of the world is depending upon this precise section of the Holy Instructions. Daniel, the 11th chapter, and then verse 8, and then sections of verse 9. That's where we are at. And as far as we can understand, in the next 36 months, until the Soviet Union becomes then very powerful, and they wilt, because later on when we read, for instance, the verse 1:4, you find then the kingdom of the north coming up with much equipment, and obviously the later state of the Soviet Union then is obviously above than the first, thus then the Gentile Netzer. So thus far we are simply awaiting for these next 36 months, and then a couple of situations taking place. The West and the rest of the world other than China wallowing around, going around circles. And then US has a chance of these next 24 months or so to get the linkages linked up, so then they are ready for the Chinese system. Now, liking it or not, it's not the point. These prophecies were given thousands of years ago, and they won't change. Not because you have a viewpoint that should be otherwise, other than, it won't work. Because you think should be in a certain way because of church and some other junk, it won't work. It's going to be done as per the instructions. And thus far, this is what we have. Then, United States linking up with China further, so then they can come up with limits and percentages, so when the people then, when they link up with the system, then taxes can be then deducted. There are many portions of this world, they are already linking up with China, and China already has then a section of its economy related with private banks. Then the expertise of these banks obviously is dealing with this new financial system and linking up the people and doing transactions. As far as we can understand, when a person logs on in the system and they have funding over there, if these fundings they are not linked with actual local central banks, nations won't be able to charge taxes. Thus, this period of time is precisely for understanding the percentages and linking up with the computers. If they don't do this, later on people are going to be using other kinds of virtual monetary systems where then they won't be able to charge taxes. So, ignoring the problem won't help. Ignoring the problem won't change. As China then is going around the world, and the system must be worldwide. Every nation, every system, every computer must be linked up with the Chinese system. And believe me, it will. As far as we can understand from the Holy Instructions, not only this, but where is the future then of the beliefs? Can a person say there is a God watching? Oh yes, there is. But the problem is, the God that people made for themselves is not truly in line with the details given by the Holy Instructions. That's what people then, they try, and they persecute, and they hurt people, and at the end of it, doesn't take place the way they wanted, and then they go back to the instructions to read what should be taking place. So let's make sure people don't destroy the prophets, but they understand the content of the Holy Instructions so they can prepare themselves and not be ignorant. Next time I'm going to evaluate the situation further from the enlightenment of the Messiah himself, I already had promised before, and then the Messiah becoming the center stage of the whole situation. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.